Hello, every pony. It's Lotus Moon. I deeply apologize for the delay for this reading. I said a while ago that I was going to read something of mine, and then after I said that, a lot of things started to pile on between homework, responsibilities, and everything else in my life. It was very hard finding free time to do some recording for this, and now that I finally finished, I bring to your hearing pleasure Nightmare Romance. Nightmare Romance, written by Lotus Moon. The time had come again in Ponyville. Nightmare night, the best night for fun, games, candy, and pranks. Philly scurried around the town chanting, "Nightmare night, what a fright, give me something sweet to bite," as they filled their goodie bags with candy. Mr. and Mrs. Cake sold sweets at their stand, while Pinkie Pie, who was dressed like a marshmallow, carried Pound and Pumpkin Cake on her back, going around and collecting candy. Granny Smith and Big Mac took a group of ponies through the haunted hayride, while Applejack monitored the Bobbing for Apples game stand. Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetie Belle were chatting with each other about their next CMC adventure, about helping a filly named Harmony realize that her cutie mark, which was a flurry of music notes, meant that she loved to sing, despite the fact that she still needed to practice. Fluttershy, having found her courage from last year's Nightmare Night, was out with her animals for a night picnic under the full moon. She did get a little jumpy from time to time, but knew it would be okay. Rainbow Dash was zipping around dressed like a changeling, pulling pranks on any pony she could, scaring some with a lightning cloud and others by just startling them. There was a moment where she thought to gather a lot of clouds and making it into something that might scare the whole town, but she knew that might be a step too far. Rarity was in her boutique working on her new winter line, Winter's Bliss, and had made plans to leave early the next morning for Canterlot, so she needed her beauty sleep. Princess Twilight Sparkle, who was dressed as a guard, flew around Ponyville, making sure everything was in order before landing near the spot where Zecora was telling the tale of Nightmare Moon and the candy offering to little fillies. Everything's going smoothly. Every pony's having a fun time and there are no problems to speak of. Although, there's one thing I'd like to check on. Twilight took off in the direction of the Everfree Forest and went to the castle of the two sisters. The castle stood perfectly pristine with its smooth stone walls, marble floors, with elegant tapestries and carpets, and filled with bats. After Ruby and her pet bat Midnight had taken over the castle, and Princesses Celestia and Luna graciously let them have it, they wasted no time redecorating. Twilight went inside, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. "Hello? Ruby? Midnight? It's Princess Twilight." "Well, just Twilight." "It's Nightmare Night. I wanted to invite you to come," she said, her voice and the sounds of bats in the rafters echoed around. "Princess Twilight, I told you to send a message before stepping into my castle," Ruby's voice said, the sound waves bouncing everywhere so the source wasn't known. "I know, I'm sorry, but it's Nightmare Night, and I wanted you to come." Twilight looked around, her ears flopped downward. After a few moments of walking around, a Pegasus named Comet came into view. His light gray coat contrasted with the midnight blue shade of his mane and tail. His gentle violet eyes greeted Twilight, along with a small chuckle.
"I'm sorry for Ruby. We would love to go tonight, but we have plans. We're actually having a nice dinner in the garden. Princess Luna's moon is just too beautiful to waste. I thought it would be a good idea to celebrate our unofficial marriage,"
Comet said and ruffled his wings a bit. "Unofficial marriage? You two? Oh my goodness, congratulations, Comet!" Twilight fluttered off the floor a bit before settling down.
"Yeah, I think it would be nicer if we had a more official wedding, but Ruby is still pretty scared to go into Ponyville after what happened. And we both know no pony would be willing to trek through the ever-free forest.
His ears flopped downward. I'll figure it out if you really want an official wedding. For now, get back to your romantic evening. Twilight smiled, and in a flash, she teleported back to Ponyville. Comet extended his wings and flew up to the rafters to settle a few of the bats, then went back to the garden. He landed a few steps from where Ruby was sitting. Her sky blue eyes a contrast to her dark red coat along with her red and black mane. The table in front of her had the remnants of a delicious meal and a cinnamon apple pie waiting to be cut into.
Ruby, you could have been a little nicer to Princess Twilight. She did plead to the princesses on our behalf to let us live here.
He sat next to her and gently nuzzled her. Ruby's ears flopped down and she sighed. I know. I'm sorry. You know how I feel about what happened, or what I did during Applebuck season, let alone to all of Ponyville. What if they still haven't forgiven me?
They have. I know they have. And I know this sounds bad, but if it weren't for that incident, we wouldn't have met.
He set one wing around Ruby and held her close, and she nuzzled Comet lovingly. You're right, Comet. I would have been lonely if it weren't for meeting you. There was nowhere in this equestrian world that would have accepted me. I basically spent my days living in caves or comfortable dim places until I stopped here. But let's not dwell on that. Let's have dessert, then go for a fly. I think I found a nice clearing where we could listen to nature. She picked up the knife on the table and cut into the pie, serving up 2 slices. Comet rubbed his nose against hers before they started eating. One thing about Ruby was that she didn't really have table manners since she became a bat pony. But she did nibble on the pie in a ladylike manner. After finishing off 1 slice, they continued eating the pie until it was finished. Your cooking is amazing as always. Are you sure you weren't supposed to have a cutie mark for cooking? Ruby smiled, stretching out her wings as she stood up.
I'm better known for my rapid flying than my cooking skills. 3rd best Rainbow Dash and Spitfire.
Comet flapped his wings and hovered off the ground.
Ready for a fly?
Of course I am. With 1 flap of her wings, Ruby was already in the air with Comet following close behind. She flew him to the clearing and landed on a crisp, cool grass. The view in the clearing covered the entirety of the everfree forest, but also Ponyville and a few mountains in the distance. Isn't this view amazing?
It certainly is, and even more amazing with you.
Comet lay down and put his wing around Ruby as soon as she was next to him. With the moon overhead, shining brighter than the stars, Ruby and Comet spent the time talking the night away. Just before Celestia started to raise the morning sun, and Luna started to lower the moon, ending Nightmare Night, they were asleep and cuddled together as the gentle breeze came rolling through. And that was Nightmare Romance, a story written by me, Lotus Moon. Okay, so I have to say, I am pretty nervous about how you'll receive this reading, as well as the fact that I was pretty nervous about recording it. I did have intentions on reading something I wrote eventually, but I didn't think it would happen this soon. But either way, I'm rather glad I did read this. Maybe I'll read some of my own stuff in the future, along with other people's works as well. I would like to thank MLP Gal for doing the artwork, and Mr. Allen for providing the voice of Comet during the reading. You have to admit, these two are really talented, and without them, I wouldn't have gotten this done. In fact, I do hope to do more collaborations with them. Actually, MLP Gal and I have decided to do one of her own stories, The Phoenix, so I look forward to that coming soon. I am Lotus Moon, and I wish you all a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night wherever you are, every pony. Good night.